August 31, 1943. 19,000 feet above the Bay of Biscay. The sun is a dull orange disk sinking into the Atlantic haze. Below, the sea glimmers like cracked glass. Above, a formation of 6 dark crosses cuts through the clouds. Focke-Wulf 190s from Jageschwader to Richthofen, returning from a convoy hunt. Their radios hiss with lazy chatter. The pilots are relaxed, confident. For months, they've been the undisputed predators of the western skies. Then one of them, Oberfeldwebel Hans Keller, spots something glinting far off the starboard wing. 2 dots, rising fast, too high for a bomber, too bulky for a Spitfire. He frowns. Probably wildcats. His wingman jokes over the radio. Another American imitation. Laughter crackles across the frequency. The Luftwaffe had faced the British, the Soviets, the Americans, and none had produced a fighter that could match their Eagles. But these dots aren't wildcats. They're Grumman F6F Hellcats. Brand new, just arrived from the States. Built in Long Island, born of lessons written in Pacific blood. The plane looks ungainly at first glance. Fat fuselage, square wings, almost brutish. Yet beneath its armor beats a 2,000 horsepower Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine that could climb, dive, and strike with terrifying speed. You can almost hear the heavy propeller clawing the air. The Hellcats move with a purpose that feels unnatural for their size. Smooth, deliberate, silent. Keller doesn't know it yet, but he's looking at the future. The Germans level off, still laughing. Their 190s bank into the sun, planning to dive, just as they've done 100 times before. They'll hit from above, blast the clumsy newcomers, and disappear into cloud. But as they roll into attack position, the laughter dies. The Americans climb toward them.
Astonishingly fast.
And they don't break. Keller curses, yanks the stick back, and pulls into a sharp climb. Too late. The first Hellcat slices past him in a blur of navy blue and silver. A burst of .50 caliber rounds tears through his tail section. The sound is a hammering chorus of death. Smoke fills the cockpit. He dives, trying to shake the American, but the Hellcat stays glued to him, matching every move with brutal efficiency. Down below, his wingman shouts, "They're faster than they look." The radio cuts off. The second F6F dives, wings flexing, guns flashing. In mere seconds, another FW-190 spirals into the sea, leaving a thin column of smoke on the horizon. The Hellcats regroup, circling like sharks. There's no taunting, no chatter, just cold precision. For the first time, the German pilots realize these Americans are not amateurs in tin toys. These are killers, methodical, silent, and terrifyingly good. In the post-action debrief, the surviving Luftwaffe pilots are shaken. It wasn't like fighting the British, one admits. They didn't dance, they hunted. Back on the carrier USS Yorktown, the Hellcat pilots, young men barely in their 20s, are equally stunned. Their new machines had performed beyond belief. "It climbs like a homesick angel," one pilot laughs, wiping oil from his goggles. But behind the smiles, there's unease. No one expected the Hellcat to dominate so effortlessly. No one realized what they'd just unleashed. Because the F6F wasn't designed to win airshows. It was built for revenge. Grumman's engineers had studied the Japanese Zero, dissected its every strength, and then designed a monster to kill it. A machine that could take hits, dive harder, climb faster, and still bring its pilot home. The Hellcat wasn't graceful, it was inevitable. And now, as the Germans return to their airfields in occupied France, the arrogance begins to crack. Reports pour in from patrols across the Atlantic. New American fighters operating farther, faster, and deadlier than before. The laughter fades. The fear begins. What the Luftwaffe doesn't yet know is that this was only the beginning. The Hellcat will soon face its true trial, not over Europe, but over the endless blue of the Pacific. And there it will earn its dreadful nickname, the Ace Maker. November 18, 1943. The Solomon Sea. 0700 hour. A storm brews over the Pacific, low gray clouds curling over the horizon. The air smells of salt and rain. On the flight deck of the USS Essex, mechanics tighten bolts, load ammunition, and fuel lines hiss like snakes. Engines roar to life, one after another. A deep, rolling thunder that drowns out every human voice. Standing near the edge of the deck, Lieutenant Alex Vreeshuw, just 25 years old, adjusts his flight goggles. The deck officer gives the signal. In seconds, his F6F Hellcat lunges forward, wheels bouncing, propeller biting through mist. The sea drops away beneath him. From above, you can see them, dozens of Hellcats in formation, climbing toward the rising sun. They look slow, heavy. But then the formation banks, and sunlight flashes off the wings, like steel blades drawn from a sheath. Their mission: intercept a swarm of Japanese bombers heading for the fleet. Vraishu tightens his grip on the stick. He's flown Wildcats before, older, weaker machines. The Hellcat feels different. Solid. Angry. When he throttles up, it feels like the plane itself wants to kill. At 12,000 feet, radar confirms contact. Dozens of dots moving fast. 12 o'clock high. The voice crackles in his headset, and then they see them. A dark cloud of Mitsubishi A6M0s, graceful and thin, like a flock of deadly birds. The same fighters that tore the Pacific apart for 2 years. The same machines that humiliated every Allied pilot from Pearl Harbor to Wake Island. But today, the rules are different. The Hellcats dive first. Vraishu's guns erupt, 6.50 caliber Browning machine guns spitting fire. The first Zero explodes into a ball of flame before it even knows what hit it. Another dives, twisting, trying to outturn him. It doesn't matter. The Hellcat doesn't turn, it punishes. Vraishu's wingman shouts, "He's on your 6." A Zero dives onto Vraishu's tail, spitting lead. He rolls hard, nose down, throttles to max. The Hellcat screams as gravity claws at it. And then, with a gut-wrenching pull, Vraishu loops up and over. The Zero overshoots. One burst and it's gone. When the sky finally quiets, the sea below is dotted with burning wrecks. 20 Zeros down. Not a single Hellcat lost. The radio crackles with disbelief. They couldn't even touch us. That day, the U.S. Navy records its first massive Hellcat victory. Word spreads like wildfire across the fleet. The fighter everyone doubted is now being called a miracle, the Wildcat's revenge. Back in Tokyo, Japanese analysts refuse to believe the reports. They think it's propaganda until captured pilots confirm it. The Americans have a new machine. One faster, stronger, and deadlier than anything in the Pacific. Soon, the statistics become terrifying. For every one Hellcat lost, 19 enemy planes fall. The Pacific skies, once ruled by the rising sun, begin to darken. Even Luftwaffe officers back in Europe start hearing whispers. The Americans have built something unstoppable. One German ace writes in his diary, "If it reaches Europe, even our 190s won't stand a chance." But they won't have to wait long to find out. Because by 1944, the Hellcat's dominance will spread like fire, and both the Axis and the Allies will witness something they've never seen before. A fighter so deadly, it will create more aces than any other plane in the war. And one German pilot will see it up close, in a sky he thought he owned. March 3, 1944, 16,000 feet above northern France. Early morning frost biting at the cockpit glass. The Luftwaffe pilots of Jagerschwader 26 Schlagiter sip bitter coffee in the briefing tent, still smirking. Reports of American superfighters in the Pacific feel distant, almost irrelevant. Europe is their domain. Here, their FW-190s and BF-109s rule the sky. They have trained, fought, and killed under every condition imaginable. The idea of a new enemy aircraft designed thousands of miles away seems almost laughable. But then it happens. Captain Erich Hartmann's unit scrambles to intercept a small formation of bombers escorted by F6F Hellcats, the same machine his comrades once scoffed at. The Germans dive with practiced precision, confident. They spot the Hellcats first. Clumsy machines, someone mutters. Big engines, slow fighters. The first pass goes badly. A Hellcat twists in the sun, dodging a burst of 20mm cannon fire with terrifying ease. The pilot rolls, dives, and for the first time the German pilots sense fear. Another Hellcat climbs sharply, almost impossibly fast, and lines up on Hartmann's wing. His guns flare. Tracers rip past him, biting into his fuselage. Smoke curls from the wing root. He yanks hard on the stick, but the American is already gone, stalking the next target with relentless precision. The Germans attempt to regroup, but the Hellcats don't just fight, they hunt. Every maneuver is calculated. Every attack exposes weakness. Every escape is countered. In 10 minutes, 3 Luftwaffe aircraft trail smoke. One spins into a nosedive, disappearing behind the clouds. The rest retreat, shaken. Even Hartmann, famed for his 352 kills, is silent, staring at the retreating F6F. Back at the airfield, pilots slam their helmets onto tables. The laughter is gone. The arrogance has cracked. "You don't understand," one of the younger aces whispers. "It's like they've built the sky itself into a weapon." Every sortie thereafter confirms the same pattern. The Hellcat climbs higher, dives faster, and survives hits that would cripple a 190 or 109. Reports of unscathed pilots returning from battles with dozens of kills become legend. The F6F doesn't just fight, it devours. And the Germans begin to realize the most terrifying fact. This isn't just an American plane. It's a philosophy, engineered to dominate the skies with overwhelming numbers, precision, and resilience. By summer, the morale in the Luftwaffe is cracking. Squadrons whisper about the American killer, once mocked, now feared. Briefings are filled with anxious speculation. Pilots practice evasive maneuvers they thought unnecessary, and commanders prepare contingency plans, but none of them are sufficient. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Grumman engineers celebrate quietly. Their creation has exceeded every expectation. The Hellcat is living proof that meticulous engineering and hard-earned combat lessons can change the tide of war. But for the Germans, the full horror is yet to come. The Pacific has already been rewritten by the F6F. Europe will feel it next, and the Luftwaffe will pay dearly for every moment they underestimated it. Because once the first dogfight ends, the Hellcat leaves nothing but wreckage and fear in its wake. And that is just the beginning. June 12, 1944. Dawn breaks over Normandy, 14,000 feet above the hedgerows and bocage. The Luftwaffe scrambles in panic. Allied bombers are approaching, B-17s and B-24s, escorted by squadrons of Hellcats. Pilots who once laughed at the clumsy American fighter now grip their sticks with cold dread. The sky is no longer theirs. It belongs to the hunter. Oberleutnant Friedrich Weber peers through the cockpit canopy of his FW-190. He sees the formation of F6Fs glinting in the morning light, engines humming like a swarm of metallic hornets. The Germans dive, hoping for a surprise attack. But the Hellcats anticipate every move. They climb, dive, and weave with terrifying efficiency, guns flashing in deadly precision. One by one, German fighters are picked off. A burst of tracers rips through a wing. Another plane spins into the earth in a spiral of fire. Smoke trails mark the sky like morbid brushstrokes. Weber rolls hard, narrowly avoiding a collision with a Hellcat that seemed to appear out of nowhere. He presses the throttle, heart hammering. Yet the F6F stays with him, relentless, unyielding. Below, Allied bombers continue toward their targets, shielded by the Americans' new champion. The Luftwaffe's bravado crumbles. What was once arrogance now turns to desperation. Pilots shout into radios trying to coordinate attacks, but their formations are already broken. The Hellcat doesn't just engage. It dominates, dictating the tempo of battle, forcing Germans into reaction, never allowing them to dictate the fight. In the debrief that evening, surviving pilots write grim reports. The F6F is not just a plane, one notes. It is an omen. It hunts, it kills, and it survives. Nothing we have can match it in Europe. For the first time in the war, the Luftwaffe realizes superiority is gone. Months of planning, training, and strategy cannot counter this relentless American fighter. Across the channel, in a makeshift command tent, Captain Hartmann stares at maps littered with casualty reports. The numbers are staggering. Entire squadrons decimated. The Hellcat is no longer a rumor from the Pacific. It is the nightmare they had ignored. Meanwhile, back on the carriers in the Atlantic and the Pacific, the young Hellcat pilots wipe sweat and oil from their goggles, smiling despite the adrenaline. They know they are flying a machine that will go down in history. Every sortie, every kill, every maneuver reinforces the legend. And the Germans? They are left to reckon with a simple, brutal truth. They laughed at it. They underestimated it. And now it is rewriting the rules of air warfare. The stage is set. The skies of Europe, once ruled by the Luftwaffe, will never be the same. The F6F Hellcat, born from lessons learned in the Pacific, has crossed oceans to become the ultimate predator. And somewhere, high above the smoke of battle, a single question lingers in every German pilot's mind. How do you fight a plane that seems impossible to kill? The answer will come in the months ahead, but one thing is certain. The Hellcat has already devoured the Luftwaffe's pride, and it is only getting started.